everybody, welcome back to Cooking with Jenjamin.
Episode 2.
Woo! We have had a recipe on our fridge for months and months, it seems.
Months?
I don't know.
It's probably been over a year.
Okay, a year then. And regardless, a very long time. And we decided that we really need to make this recipe. So it is going to be gluten-free soft pretzels, and I happen to be a huge, obnoxious pretzel lover. So we'll see how this goes.
So the recipe that we got is from a King Arthur
catalog.
Yeah, King Arthur food catalog, and so I'll see if I can find it online so it can be posted so you can see it. But otherwise, if not, I'll just type out everything, which will be great. Actually, I'll probably take a picture and then link to it. That'll be a whole lot easier. In any case, so yeah, we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll be going through the ingredients as we go through here, and yeah, should be fun. We haven't made this before, so
it could be disastrous.
But
I think we'll have that warning on pretty much everything we make.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so to start out with, this recipe calls for some gluten-free flour, brown sugar, instant yeast, salt, xanthan gum, baking powder, water, an egg, room temperature, and that's actually very important when cooking. If it says room temperature, make sure it's room temperature, not cold. Otherwise, you're going to have interesting results. And then soft butter.
And I should mention too that the gluten-free flour mixture that we're using is the gluten-free all-purpose flour. Pretty much at every grocery store, well, at least here in St. Cloud, it's pretty easy to find. And works pretty darn slick. I happen to really love this flour, so. Yeah,
I mean, not surprisingly, it's their recipe, so
yeah,
they're going to call for their flour, but there are probably some other flours that will work as well, but
this one does not have any xanthan gum or arrowroot powder, anything like that in it, so this would always be something that you would have to, if they required, if they asked for xanthan gum, you would actually have to add it, so, with this one.
All right. So we've got most of our stuff measured out already, and that includes this is going to be 3.5 cups or 19.5 ounces of the flour. So one of the biggest suggestions that I can make whenever you're baking and measuring out flour is to, if you have the option and if the recipe actually gives you a weight of flour, to use the weight. The reason why is because flour compacts very easily, and so a lot of us will take a scoop out and kind of settle it in there, shake it around to kind of settle it out, and what that actually does is that compacts it, so you get a little bit more powder than what's actually being called for. You can use sifters to kind of combat that, but that takes a lot of extra time. So I really suggest just getting yourself a cheap little scale like we did. I think we got this on Amazon for $10 or something.
Yep.
Relatively, they're pretty cheap, and as long as they have the ability to, you can set up a measuring device on it and then adjust the weight. I think it's a tare. I don't know if that's actually how it's pronounced, but basically that allows you to adjust the weight, so it takes into account the container. So you're just measuring the ingredients. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get going. So aside from our flour here, we are going to have 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. We're going to have 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. We just use sea salt, a teaspoon of xanthan gum, and a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So those are all of our dry ingredients, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and combine them with the flour at this point in time. I don't know if I said the 2 teaspoons of yeast. So we'll go ahead and get that in there. Part of the yeast to start off with here.
And we should mention too that not every yeast is gluten-free, so do make sure to be cautious if you are wanting it to be fully gluten-free, that you are using a gluten-free yeast.
up a little bit. Do suggest pouring in part of the yeast first and then adding a little bit more later here. And this is an instant yeast. One thing that you can always check is the platinum high quality yeast will oftentimes have flours in there, especially the quick rise stuff. And the reason why, or specifically like wheat, and the reason why they have that is because it helps the yeast, it gives the yeast a little bit of extra food, and so it helps it expands a little bit more. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is put together our wet ingredients here. So that gives us with a 1 1/4 cup of water and a single egg, and again this should be room temperature, and then some soft butter. So I'm going to whip up the egg here a little bit quick. Alright, so our egg. Butter got a little soft, really soft. It's kind of more of a liquid, but that's alright. It'll help that egg warm up a little bit more. And the directions don't call to mix the liquids and the solids separately, but I always like to do that. It just kind of seems like it makes things easier to mix. Probably doesn't make a difference at all. Makes me feel better. Alright, so we are going to now combine this here. And basically just stir it until we have a firm dough, probably about 4 minutes or so. Now they recommend using a stand mixer if you have one.
Do you want me to
I
grab
also recommend using a stand mixer. We have a little hand mixer that we'll use here to help us out a bit. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is transfer our dough over to a nicely greased bowl here. You need should have enough space for it to about double. Let it rise for a little bit and about double in size. And so what we're going to do is put it in here and then cover it for 45 to 90 minutes. And then we'll do the next part. So let's go ahead and move this over. And there we go. So this is going to sit for 45-90 minutes. We'll be keeping an eye on it here, and
we'll be back.
We'll be back. All right. So we let the dough rise for probably almost 90 minutes before it doubled in size, and then the next stage after you do that is to divide the dough by 12 equal parts. It's a little sticky, but it's not too difficult to handle and get it divided. Recommend when you're dividing it, it does help a little bit of flour on your hands. Once you have that divided, the next step is to kind of deflate them a little bit. I assume this is deflating them a little bit. And then roll them into 12 to 14 inch rolls. And on a lightly powdered surface. So we just put some gluten-free flour down on our countertop here. And then you're rolling them out. So one of the challenges that we've noticed immediately is that the flour, these little rolls, are incredibly fragile. So that makes things very difficult. And the pretzels kind of, well, they look like pretzels for about 2 seconds, and then you try to pick them up and they just fall apart. So the directions also say that while these are being prepared. You get a pot of 4 quarts of water boiling. And so it's actually a gallon, 128 ounces. Let's see, that's just stuck, so that's worthless. This has been how this night has gone. There's a reason why we're not doing all these on film, because
yes, it takes a long time, and it's a bit embarrassing, to be honest. We hope that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, a Pinterest thing gone wrong. You guys hope that it's going to be so easy, but it is not. Yes, and the other thing to remember too is when you do the boiled water and you add the sugar and baking soda, do not just throw the sugar and baking soda into the pot of boiling water. I was not aware of this, but it was kind of a mini explosion, a little science experiment.
Yeah, so, and it smells like, right now our kitchen smells like,
yeah, like an 8th grade.
Yeah, 7th and 8th grade science room.
Yes, it's terrible.
So now we've got all of these done, and you can see these are the first 2 that were done. Yeah, and you think, oh, well, their skill set's going to improve as they do more. Yeah, nope. These are the last 6. As you can see, they have gotten considerably worse.
Yes, very embarrassing.
But I also think I kind of just stopped caring after the first. Like, oh, well, this isn't going to work.
Yes.
So next thing we're going to do, the next part of this is the reason why we have the boiling water with the baking powder and sugar is we're going to be dipping these, maybe, if it works, into the boiling water for 5 seconds and then returning them to the tray. The idea behind that, I'm assuming, is that'll give them the nice crust on the outside that you're used to seeing in pretzels. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that process and probably start with one of these crappier ones before we get to the couple decent ones.
True enough. True enough.
So hopefully we'll end up with a couple pretzels that actually turn out from this. So we're going to move over to the stovetop here, and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, we are back in the, oh goodness, that got boiling up.
Yeah, turn it down a little bit.
What we're going to do now is, we've already got one of these trays done here. You want to go ahead and put it in there. And basically you just drop it in there for about 5 seconds, and then it'll float to the surface. And there we go.
Take it out.
So,
yeah, I don't know if you want to take it. Yeah, some of them are drier that you can scoop them pretty easy. Some are not.
There we go.
Yes, none of the last batch that we put in was very sad, and they don't look like pretzel shaped anymore. They look more like,
they're gonna be pretzel bites.
yeah, they're little chunks.
Sad pretzel bites.
Yeah. And I mean, and these aren't looking much better. Granted, this one is probably the most impressive, but otherwise not so good.
All right, and you can also just, you know, drop these in
Yep,
by
and it
hand if you
automatically
want.
floats up, so it's
It'll
really nice.
float
There
to
it goes.
the surface after about 5 seconds. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see the results of our dumping everything in. There's a nice brown line around the burners here, so that's going to be fun to clean later. Really important to put it in slowly. It will start to foam, and then you just wait till the foam goes down. Probably want to keep an eye on it. And it may also help if you have, this is a 5-quart pan, and you can see a lot of it's actually boiled away, and it's gotten it's still pretty high up. And I think if we had a 6-quart pan or pot, that probably would have helped. You can see this is falling apart. This is probably going to be, oh yeah, this is pretzel bites. I'm not even going to try. So we might get 2 pretzel-y looking things and some other blobs out here, but this is everything. So you're just going to put it in the oven until it's golden brown, and then they're done. So we're going to,
We'll see in about 25 minutes or so.
something like that, and start the terrible cleanup project. Okay, so this is the aftermath of boiling the water and not putting the baking soda in slowly.
It's gonna be a little bit of a cleanup, folks.
Yeah. I imagine the bottom of the pan is equally as unattractive, so yeah, put it in slowly. Alright, so pretzels are done. Some of them you can actually kind of call pretzels.
We're really proud of this one.
Yep, that's the one
Yes.
that actually looks like a pretzel.
Yes. Some of these look like dog turds, but
They don't taste like dog turds.
but they're not. They don't taste that bad. And we also have pretzel salt, so we added that. And
I should say, for the pretzel salt, the directions say, and we didn't do it this way, but the directions do say that after you dip them in the water initially before going in the oven, when you put them back on the sheet, then you can go ahead and sprinkle the salt on them. And then that way the salt will actually stick a little bit better, as opposed to not really at all. But you can always just
butter them or spray
butter them
them.
down, spray them down with some water, and sprinkle the salt on, and that'll take care of it. But they actually do taste pretty good. They look like crap, but the flavor is there. So we had a few that we decided to go with as pretzel bites, but the two that actually turned out.
But look at this one. It looks like something Shyla created out in the grass.
She's a very creative soul.
So I would say that, this is a semi-success. At least they taste okay. It's edible.
Flavor-wise, I would call it a success.
Yes. Close your eyes and just don't look at what you're eating, but tastes great. So
If you're not too concerned about the pretzel aspect of it, you could probably just put them in circles or just nice long little pretzel logs or something. Something far less complicated.
yes. But again, it might be something where we just have to continue to work,
Sure.
do the recipe multiple times to really get the skill set down. But nonetheless, it
Turned out pretty well.
Yep.
It does take a decent amount of time. When we started this around
Yes.
7?
Oh no, like 5:30, 6. It was still light out.
Yeah, it was still light out. So it takes a while. It is now
9:15.
quarter after 9. So it takes quite a while. And we didn't wait any
No.
longer than we needed to. So,
Nope. And there's quite a bit of cleanup with it, but
well,
and part of it was my fault. But still, hey, we stuck with it. We got through the whole thing, and that's all right. So.
and it doesn't taste terrible. So.
No. All right. High five.
No.
We did it. Woo!
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.